First, let's start with this case. My 30-year-old male partner, 29-year-old female, has phone anxiety and executive dysfunction, so I often handle tasks like bills and coordinating repairs. She's been unemployed for nearly 2 years, receiving social services payments while I work full-time. We live with my parents, reducing household expenses, and she has savings from when she worked. Before a recent vacation, I told her to notify social services about leaving the country, as they'd need to pause her payments. 4 weeks into the trip, she missed a call from them, and now owes money because she didn't notify them. I stayed calm and told her to handle it when we returned. Now, 2 weeks after we're back, she says she's too anxious to call and asks me to do it during my lunch break. I refused, as the call would likely take too long and cut into my work hours. She called me selfish and hasn't addressed whether she's resolved it, only saying, "Why does it matter to you?" Am I in the wrong for refusing to make the call for her? Additional context: I'm in therapy, while she hasn't gone in years due to the cost. I pay for couples therapy when we attend. Social services are only reachable during work hours, and my job requires me to be available for client calls. Let's start judging. Just what exactly does she bring to the relationship? She doesn't work, doesn't contribute financially, won't or can't take care of things herself, and won't get the therapy she needs to ease the situation. You're not in the wrong. You're not in the wrong. This is her personal finance business that only she can inquire about. When it's anything of a personal nature and privacy laws are present, she is the one who needs to call. She probably has social anxiety, as fear of using a phone is a very common symptom of that condition. But she needs to face her fears and call them to get this straightened out. Otherwise, they might stop her payments altogether, and I doubt she wants that. She's a big girl and can handle it. Oh, man. I've been here. I know that paralyzing fear over picking up the phone knowing I'm the one that's caused my own cycle of misery. That said, your approach of offering to be with her as moral support whilst she makes the call was correct. What she wants is for you to enable her current anxieties, which doesn't help her at all. In fact, it worsens the anxiety in the long run. You're not in the wrong. You can't do it all for her, and you shouldn't do it all for her. Next up, I, 27-year-old female, recently took my sister-in-law, 33-year-old female, to an MRI appointment. During lunch, we discussed a museum trip we'd been planning with my husband, 28-year-old male, her brother, and their other sister. She suggested creating a group chat to see if everyone was available on 11/20/30, and, since she was having trouble typing due to her injury and medication, asked me to write the message. I typed, "Would you guys be available for 11/20/30 to go to the museum?" Stephanie, sister-in-law, should be able to handle it by then. I showed her the text before sending, and she approved it. Today, my husband told me his sister was annoyed by the message, claiming I overstated her commitment to the date. When he explained that I wrote the text with her approval, she became skeptical, implying my English skills caused a misunderstanding. While English is my second language, I was born in an English-speaking country and spoke it fluently before moving to my parents' home country at age 7. Her reaction felt hostile, and my husband noticed the same. Additionally, during lunch, she asked probing questions about my immigration status and my family's background, which made me uncomfortable. This felt out of character, as she's usually very liberal when discussing politics. Am I in the wrong for sending the group text? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. You literally showed her the text before sending it. It had her stamp of approval. Sounds like the problem isn't the text, but her weird energy around your background. Like, why is she suddenly a detective about your English skills? You didn't overstate anything. You were just doing her a favor by organizing the group chat. Honestly, this whole thing smells more like a her problem than a you problem. Maybe next time she can draft her own texts if she's going to act like this. You're not in the wrong. You let her read the text before sending it. WTAF. Perhaps she's not recovering as quickly as she expected, and is backpedaling by blaming it on you misunderstanding. That's still a jerk move. As for the rest of it, I don't think your SIL is nearly as liberal as she claims, at least not as far as her family is concerned. Reminds me of my dad. My dad says all the right pro-feminist words. Women should be self-sufficient, shouldn't depend on men, and feel trapped. but he was a total arse about me being an independent, self-sufficient young lady. He seemed to think my time at college was so I could get my Mrs. degree. Friends helped load up my dorm room, but they were enlisted Navy guys. Why aren't you hanging out with officers? They're better prospects. 1. They were friends, not dates. And 2. They were hauling my stuff down 4 external flights of stairs in Florida. Would his precious officers be happily doing hot, sweaty grunt labor? Possibly, but really, Dad. He only backed down when he met my future husband. Next up, my brother's 12th birthday is today, and my 17th is 2 days from now. Since he was born, my family has always celebrated both of our birthdays on his actual birthday, ignoring mine entirely. I've repeatedly asked for compromises, like celebrating on the day between our birthdays or having separate celebrations, but my parents dismissed these ideas as inconvenient or stupid. This year, I decided to make a change. I used my own money to buy a birthday cake and decorations exclusively for my brother, hid the shared decorations, and removed my name from anything related to the party. On the day of the party, I refused any gifts for myself and made it clear we were only celebrating my brother's birthday. My brother loved the attention and had a great time, but my parents were furious. They accused me of being petty and wasting money, vandalizing decorations, and making them look bad to our extended family, who are now criticizing them for prioritizing my brother over me. I don't think I did anything terribly wrong. I just wanted my brother to enjoy his own birthday and stop celebrating mine on a day that isn't my actual birthday. Am I in the wrong for making this change? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. Good job. Your family now knows your brother is the golden child, or at least favored. There is no reason why they couldn't do his party one weekend and yours the next. My kids are 2 weeks apart. We never combine parties. It's not fair to them. You're not in the wrong. They've been dismissing your feelings and have been unwilling to compromise with you for years. All you did was give your brother a solo party. It isn't fair for either of you to have to share a birthday on his special day. You're 2 separate people with 2 separate birthdays and, honestly, too old to be having shared parties. You were trying to make a point and did it well. Your parents are upset because you made your point and it made them look bad, as it should have. Birthdays are special events meant to be about a person, and though your days are very close, you still each deserve your own celebration. Cost is the issue. They have all year to save and plan to give you each your own special day. They were being cheapskates and making you pay the price while favoring your brother, and now everyone knows it. You're not in the wrong. Next up, I moved to the United States 4 years ago for school, and I've been living in Florida with my extended family. My graduation is coming up next month, and although I'm very sad about it, I'm moving back to my country until I'm able to afford coming back. My brother is also starting school in the United States in the fall in New York and is planning to move by the end of the year so he can get situated. I had a phone call with my mom, and we had decided that my mom, my dad, and my brother were flying to Florida for my graduation. Then after New Year's, me and my dad would fly back to my country, and my mom and brother would fly to New York to drop my brother off closer to the fall. I would also have to find a way to fit all of my stuff in a couple of suitcases to bring back. Well, today, she calls me to let me know she bought plane tickets for the 4 of us to fly from Florida to New York to spend New Year's there, and that I need to buy myself a plane ticket to go back to my country after the holidays. Not only is it much more expensive to fly from New York back to my country, I also have to find a way to pack and ship all of my stuff to my country first, because we need the suitcase space for winter clothes. I told my mom I would rather not spend the extra money, not go to New York, and just fly to my country after January with all my stuff. Not to mention, I thought it was wrong to go back on what we had agreed on without telling me and then say I need to pay upwards of $600 more than we had discussed. She told me she already paid for my ticket to fly to New York and that I'm choosing to save money over spending the holidays with my family. I'm also torn because by moving back to my country, I'm ending a long-term relationship with my partner, and I was hoping we would be able to spend the holidays together. We've never been able to, because I always have flown back home for the holidays, and he has spent it with his own family. This would be our last chance to spend it together before we go our separate ways. He says I'm in the right for prioritizing the logistics of my move over my parents, but they say I'm in the wrong for choosing to save some money over the family trip. So, am I in the wrong? Let's start judging. Is this a joke? You're not in the wrong. Your family are the ones that want the trip, not you. You are not obligated to spend a lot of money out of nowhere just because your family members want to travel around. Best wishes, and I hope you family can be reasonable. You're not in the wrong. Your parents didn't discuss it with you, and you have plenty of time with them going forward as you're going back to your country with them. There's no reason to spend your last days with them before spending the foreseeable future with them. Tell your mom to refund the ticket. You're not in the wrong. It was very inconsiderate of them to just change the plans without even discussing it with you. It can make you feel like an afterthought or that your time wasn't valued, which is never fun. I don't think it's fair for them to basically say you are putting money above family time. If you had unlimited funds and chose not to go, that would be one thing. But you are moving and are limited on funds, so it's necessary for you to save in order to pay your other bills. I would have a discussion about that if you're up for it, and try and get the ticket refunded. Or you can transfer it for your flight home. Next up, I am 18, female, am on a trip from hell with my family. I was a little reluctant when my stepdad, 35, and my mom, 41, suggested we go on a family vacation. My mom and stepdad are extremely prone to arguing, and I knew it would be a crazy storm that I didn't want to get stuck in. But of course, they pressured me to go. It didn't help that my 2 younger siblings pressured me to go. I felt bad leaving them to go alone, especially since they would have to travel with an adult at all times. Before we had even booked the trip tickets, my stepdad gathered all of us together. My mom was really excited to go back home for the first time in years. She smiled, and instantly my stepdad had a problem that she smiled because apparently she wasn't taking things seriously enough. He threatened to not book the tickets after a big fight, and they ended up booking the tickets. The trip has honestly been very jam-packed and eventful. We have been all over the island, but my stepdad has been making this trip miserable, finding ways to ruin moments by picking fights with my mom. To make things worse, we all have food poisoning and have been sharing one bathroom. Safe to say, tensions have been high. One of our pit stops we visited was my great-grandparents. We had to drive up a mountain because my great-grandparents live in a small mountain village, which I won't lie was very scary to do in a foreign country. There are no guardrails, so one wrong move car is going flying straight off the mountain. My stepdad made the car ride so tense. He forbade all of us from making a noise. I sneezed and he started cussing at me and flipping out. When we got up the mountain, we only stayed for 20 minutes because he was nervous about it getting dark on the way down. They offered for us to stay the night, and my mom begged to stay longer. Her grandparents raised her, and she hadn't seen them in years, and God knows when's going to be the next time. They are pushing almost 98, both of them. My stepdad didn't want to stay in twig homes. So back to the hotel we went in silence. The next day, my mother got her period. Both me and my mother get horrible period pain, to the point where we both experience nausea. My stepdad argued with my mom for having no energy and screamed, laughed, and mocked her through the bathroom door over the noises of her crying and literally throwing up from the pain of her period. Later, when she came out, I asked her, "Why are you even with him?" What I don't know is that he was shot in the ear. This set him off so bad, and he screamed in my face that I was trying to destroy his relationship, that I was the devil and horrible and evil. I was called manipulative. I knew I should have just stayed home. I don't know why I thought this trip would be any different. I know that you should try to work things out, but I feel like my mom shouldn't be the idiot. Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong, but you need to be more strategic about this. It sounds like an emotionally abusive relationship, and your mom needs to consider her safety if she is going to free herself. It's dangerous to talk about or take action in leaving an abusive relationship. I suggest you wait until you get home and then reach out to domestic violence organizations in your community for guidance. Also, realize that it takes a while before your mom is ready to leave. It's a huge risk to take, and there are a lot of emotional anchors planted in her brain. Meanwhile, try to get yourself and your siblings some counseling, because witnessing abuse is a trauma in itself. I'm sorry you have to go through all of this. You're not in the wrong. Your stepdad is extremely verbally and emotionally abusive. He is on a constant power trip. Obviously has severe anger management issues. Your mother absolutely should leave him. Screaming and flipping out on you constantly, cruelly mocking and berating you mom while she is ill, all of that is sick and wrong. Your younger siblings are watching her allow this man to treat her like this. How do you think they will treat their future partners? Continue to encourage your mom to get help and to get out of this toxic, abusive relationship. You're not in the wrong, but you should focus on protecting yourself if you can. Get out of any house he lives in. Don't agree to trips or outings he is on. Try to stay close to your mother, but be clear that you won't be treated this way. They cannot work it out and be happy. He will only be happy when she is not. Next up, I, 25-year-old female, recently moved to a new country where I know almost no one except my brother, 27-year-old male, who lives 4 hours away. I visit him monthly and try to spend quality time with him. He has a girlfriend, 26-year-old female, sister-in-law, who has shown signs of jealousy in the past, though we've never had issues directly. This past weekend, my brother invited me to an event. He had 2 gifted tickets, and sister-in-law's 2 friends bought 3 tickets in another section. My brother assured me we'd sit together since I traveled to visit him and didn't know sister-in-law's friends. However, the day before the event, my brother said I'd need to sit with sister-in-law's friends because she wanted to sit with him. I proposed alternatives, like swapping seats, but sister-in-law insisted the only acceptable arrangement was her sitting with my brother while I sat with her friends. This led to a big argument. I told my brother I'd rather stay home than sit alone with strangers. Eventually, he convinced sister-in-law to let me sit with him while she sat with her friends. Now sister-in-law is angry with me, and I'm worried this will affect my relationship with my brother. Am I in the wrong for standing my ground and insisting on sitting with my brother? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. Sister-in-law's friends are there only because of sister-in-law, right? The original plan was for you 3 to sit together. Then her friends were added to the plate, and now she feels you would babysit her friends and won't sit with the only person you actually know there? You're not in the wrong. Under different circumstances, it might have been reasonable for your brother and GF to sit together, but in this case, you were visiting and they were hosting you. You would not be able to communicate much with the people they wanted to sit you with. So your request was reasonable. The problem is, it does you no good to be right. It was good for one event, but now you have an annoyed person to deal with. If she and your brother stay together, you'll likely benefit from trying to move past it and befriending her. The less said about the seating thing, the better. You're not in the wrong. I don't understand why she'd invite 2 friends and then leave them with a stranger, you, so she can sit with her boyfriend. As you say, there seems to be an issue with jealousy here. It shouldn't be up to you to make a stand, but it is what it is. Talk to your brother and try to befriend sister-in-law. If he's 4 hours away, it's not like you'll be seeing him a lot. But siblings are the kind of relationships where it's important to work through these things.